Good evening. I'd like to call the Traffic Commission meeting of March 14th to order. Members present, Police Chief James Guido, City Planner Frank Stringy, Fire Chief Chris Bright, myself, Paul Agenzio, Superintendent of Public Works. If you can join me in a salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This meeting was called so we could get public input to the proposed ordinance for citywide overnight residential sticker parking. We have a document that we believe is a good one. We've worked quite hard on it. A lot of people have worked hard on it. But saying that, we want the public's input, and we can tweak this if we feel as though we need to. This citywide resident sticker parking would be from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. There would be one sticker per registered vehicle, and each household could apply for one visitor pass. There would be no charge for the permit, and there would be a $10 charge for the visitor placard. People 65 years and older or disabled veterans, those fees would be waived. In this ordinance, as you see it, there are two lists of streets. One list of streets. Those are commuter parking areas. Those areas would remain 24-hour resident parking, and people would be allowed to park for 2 hours without a sticker. So this would stop commuter parking, but still allow people to visit those areas. And those streets are listed in this ordinance. There's also another list of apartment complexes. Those units over 6, those complexes over 6 units, some apartment buildings have provided adequate space for the resident parking and also for visitor parking. Those people would not be eligible for a sticker. There are some apartment complexes that have received a variance for the city for their parking. Those residents would be allowed to apply for one permit per unit. Those are just the highlights of the thing. It's quite a large document. I believe everyone's had an opportunity, I hope you have, to take a look at it. So we're going to open this up to anyone that would like to speak. And if you could silence your cell phones, and if you could limit your comments to 3 or 4 minutes, we'd appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Traffic Commission, I'm Ward 3 City Councilor Art Guanasso, and I'm also President of the Revere City Council. The single largest request from the people I represent and from the voices that I've heard throughout the community is that we need some sort of relief from parking overnight. We need resident parking, and we need it as quickly as possible. Based on the fact that we have all kinds of things going on in our community, between Airbnbs and being the locale of Logan Airport and all types of activity that warrant overnight parking. And if they don't have a legal source to place that in, what do? They use our public streets. And this is happening through most of our city. There are some areas in our community that won't be affected by this at all, and I appreciate that. What we're trying to do, or what we've pushed and we've asked and requested through the workmanship of the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee of the Revere City Council, in forwarding some data to you, and you modifying it to your likes and needs, is to get a fair play for everybody. Knowing that it doesn't work for all. We know that that's for sure. But we can modify that as we go along. We experienced a couple of years ago having subcommittee meetings, and all we got was a bunch of self-interest people coming before us, explaining their personal needs. And that stalled the whole thing because we can attend to them on an individual basis. What we're trying to do is encompass the whole city and then work upon these people who have these real legitimate needs. And we say they are legitimate. But we don't want to stall any longer in implementing a citywide program that's going to be so beneficial to all our city. Number one, it's going to allow public safety apparatus to traverse our community in a much quicker fashion. And they can identify areas and go up and down streets in a much quicker fashion than they are experiencing now. And I think in hearing the concerns of my residents, the residents I represent, and in my particular case right now as council president, I'm hearing from a lot of people throughout the community who've offered their concerns, and they're valid. They have reason to ask and request this. So I know everybody's fearful of change, but you know, a few of the cities and towns around us have implemented parking, and guess what? Those folks are coming into Revere and parking overnight in Revere, and that's so unfair to our residents, our law-abiding citizens who live and reside here and register their cars here. This is another thing that we're going to rid our community of. We're going to get rid of the New Hampshire, the Rhode Island, the Connecticut plates that you see on a daily basis in your community, parking overnight, but their cars are not registered here. They're not paying an excise tax to our community. They're not part of our community. And so, having said all that, I beg upon you to weigh this out, provide some relief for our citizens, and be fair. We're going to be fair about this. And I know in speaking with the parking enforcement director, Mr. Rose, he's taken this upon. He wants this. He wants this to happen. He's worked with us. He said, we're going to experience all the work of this, but we're willing to take on the challenge, and I applaud him publicly for that, because he's really been a very helpful force in this. So anything the Revere City Council can do, I pledge to you that we will do, because every member of the City Council is in favor of a resident parking program. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Yes, after, you can certainly get up and ask any question you'd like. We're here to answer any question that you have. So when you want to get up, that's fine. We'll answer any question you have.
Joanne McKenna, Ward 1 Councilor, and I am one of the makers of this motion. Right now in Beachmont, we're inundated and overcrowded with cars. Being a hill community, there's a lot of people that don't have driveways, so they have to park on the streets. I know next door to me, and I've probably said this 100 times, we have a rooming house, and we have 7 cars, and they all have Florida plates. I'm sure they're not registered in Revere. I'm sure they have plackets on their cars. Right now, Chelsea, Winthrop, and Everett has permit parking. Those are the surrounding areas. So we have Winthrop people parking in Beachmont, Everett people parking up in Ward 6, you know. So it's just, it will eliminate a lot of these cars that are not registered in Revere. And also, it would give us excise tax. It would bring money to the city. It won't be uniform, sir, throughout the whole city. 1 and 2 is going to be the way it is. And I think 3, 4, and 5, well, 4 is going to have some permit parking, but 3, 4, 5, and 6 will have overnight parking. No overnight parking for, I think it's 12 to 6. So this will eliminate a lot of problems. It will help our residents. This is one of the biggest concerns that our residents has besides traffic, and we're trying to help our residents to move forward. So I hope this doesn't delay tonight, because since I've been on the council, we've been working on this, and I've been on for 4 years now, and I know it's gone past before that. So let's see this go forward, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor McKenna. Push it again, sir.
John Benetti, 34 Dana Street. My question is, I'm not sure, because I have the old one, but not the new one. So is this gonna be just overnight parking, or are we gonna do permit parking throughout the whole city?
This is permit parking from midnight to 6 a.m., the entire city. Areas that are currently permit parking that are affected by commuters would be 24 hours.
So you're gonna change my area to 24 hours? Dana Street. I'm against it. Dana Street is 7 to 12 now. It works for the commuter problems.
Yes,
But let me-
Dana Street would be 24 hours,
Well, see, I don't, and that's gonna be what, 5 days, 6 days, what's it gonna be?
7 days a week.
7 days a week. So that restricts me from having company. I have 4 children. So what am I supposed to do now? So 7 to 12 was working for the commuter end of it.
Right.
Now, let me say something else. Now, there was lots of empty spots on Dana Street. They're no longer there because we have rooming houses, all right? And they got permit parking because they must pay rent and show a receipt to somebody in the city to get their permits. So they gotta go on Garfield Ave to park. I know how many spaces are available on Dana Street, 24. It doesn't work. Now, here's the other problem. Up until yesterday, there's cones and chairs out. Now, I got a permit to park on my street, and I can't because people got cones and stuff. Now, you want to put this program into effect, but citywide, people are putting cones and chairs out for a week after the snowstorm. Now, all that permit gives me is a hunting license to find a place to park. That's all it's doing. We
Well,
got selfish people that want to park directly in front of their houses because they complain about groceries or this or that. Sometimes I got to park on Dana Street with 4 bundles, and I'm 76, but I can carry the 4 bundles because I go to the gym every day. So the thing here is I'm against the 24-hour in my area. We don't need it. 7 to 12 has been working for like 20 years. I've been up here before for this here on the same subject. Now, I can't have company. You're going to give me 1 sticker for visitor's pass, where you used to give me 2.
We'll give you, well, just to be clear, we'll give you 1 sticker for every registered car at your house.
Right.
And in the 24-hour zone, anyone will be able to come and visit you for 2 hours with no sticker. You can also apply
So
for
now
a
what do you-
visitor pass.
All right, so what do you do on holidays? Birthday parties.
Holidays are exempt.
You got birthday parties, you got showers, you got different things going on during the week. 7 days is really tough. It's just not, see, my whole point here is, there are selfish people here thinking about themselves. I'm thinking about the whole city. 7 to 12 worked in my area. It's starting not to work in my area, not because there are people sneaking in, it's just more cars. And then, like I said, now you got people putting out chairs, and they think they can leave them there all day. And if we don't, Chelsea picks them up. Now, I don't know why we don't pick them up.
We do-
Boston picks them up.
When people call 311, they put in a work order and
Doesn't happen.
we come and pick them up.
Not only do I
People are
call,
not allowed to save spots.
listen, I've called 311, I've called the mayor's office, they don't come down. I'm sorry to tell you, they don't come down.
Okay.
I'm a lifelong resident here, I know exactly what goes on in this city. Now, I have no problem with the overnight parking, but this 24/7, that's awful much on a lot of people. You're really making it hard on people. See, they don't realize when they want to have a birthday party, or a shower, or they have something going on, a graduation party, something, where are these people gonna park? It's 24/7.
Okay, sir, we'll certainly
very much.
consider what you had to say, and thank you for your input.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick Keefe, Revere City Councilor, Ward 4, also City Council Vice President. Much like Councilor Guanasso had mentioned, this is, and Councilor McKenna have mentioned, this has been talked about since I've been on the council now, 3+ years. And it's been kicked around a lot. There's been a lot of additions and subtractions with lots of community input, and today's another example of that this will go on as long as needed, I'm sure, today. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of it. We are receiving a lot of infiltration from our neighboring cities, and I know that even Malden is going to be implementing this soon. So we're pretty much surrounded by it. I agree. There's going to be some imperfections. We're going to learn along the way. And there's going to be some one-offs. Just like in anything that we do as a city, there's always going to be a few one-offs that are going to affect the small minority of people that we will have to address along the way at some point. And I'm totally amicable to that. The entire city council is amicable to that. So, but we have to at some point start somewhere. So getting this implemented and working on it case by case will be the best path forward. And you have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Ira Novoselsky, 53 Dehone Street, Ward 2 Councilor. And I think my area is probably the most impacted, along with Beachmont, on things that are happening. I understand what Mr. Benetti is talking about, and, you know, I could potentially yield. You know, I talked to the parking clerk, and he can, you know, parking director, and he, you know, he feels he can handle split times.
Okay.
But, you know, the 12 midnight to 6, that could be still consistent, and potentially leave the 12 to 7 or the 9 to 5. I know we wanted to try and make it consistent for his team to work on it, but he said he's willing to look, you know, to work with it.
Okay.
On the split times. This is something that, you know, a lot of my colleagues hit the nail on the head in most cases. The people coming from other cities are parking in, you know, you got the taxi drivers that are leaving their cars overnight and taking their cabs into Boston and parking on our streets overnight. And, you know, that's another issue that we have to look at. But I think it's a start. We have to start somewhere, like it's been said, and work on it and move along. Start somewhere, tweak it later if we have to. So I think we ought to move ahead with this and have your public hearing. I think it's a good package that was put together between the parking and the clerk and myself. And I like it, and I think we ought to work with it and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Pressure.
Good evening, gentlemen. John Powers, 46 DePonte Street, Ward 5 City Councilor. Like my colleagues and many of the residents of this city, I'd say most of the residents of this city, feel this is long overdue. The area I represent, Riverside, we have no parking down there now on those streets. The area around the Wonderland MBTA station is very heavily impacted. Most of the streets in that area, including a submittal I made to the commission last month, was for Bay Road, and they want resident parking down there also, and they're very adamant about it. I think any area that is adjacent to an MBTA station should definitely all be resident parking. The Oak Island area, people go to the summertime, they go to the beach. That is impacted severely down there also by cars. They can't find a spot on the beach because of this new development down there now, so people are being forced into the neighborhoods. So that should all be resident parking down there. And I'm here tonight to speak in favor of that for future meetings also. I think that, you know, the one thing that you mentioned, sir, is one sticker per car. Now, let's say that someone has a house, single-family house. They have 4 or 5 kids living in the house. They all have vehicles. How does that work out?
They would all get a sticker. As long as the car was registered in Revere, you would get a sticker per registered car.
Okay, now I want to go to the Point of Pines in general. As you know, we have one-sided parking down there. Okay, there are many houses down there that have 2 or 3 cars. So I think that the commission, in my own opinion, has to look at each area separately. If you have, maybe let's take Alden Avenue. If you have, let's say, 12 potential parking spaces down there, and they're issuing maybe 3 for one house, 4 for another, 2, and you've got probably 20 stickers issued. How does that work? I don't get it.
Well, I think most people would be using their driveways, hopefully.
If they have driveways, that's correct. And I would hope so too, but I think this should be looked at even more closely with regard to how many stickers are going to be issued per household, and also per vehicle registered there. So I think it's something that we're going to have to tweak as we go along, but I would like you to keep that particular situation out there so that we can not impact anyone that's, a guy comes home from dinner and he wants to park in a street because he doesn't have a driveway or the driveway is loaded. Where's he going? So I think every section of this city has to be looked at independently to make it work for everyone in the city that owns property and pays taxes. Thank you.
You're welcome, Counselor, thank you. No, your street or adjacent street, so you would be able to park on Garfield, in your case.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Jessica Janino, Counselor at Large, Ward 6 in Revere. I want to thank everyone that works for the city for being here tonight, chiefs, both chiefs, and Mr. Director now.
Thank you.
This is a motion that Councilor McKenna and myself put in when we served as council president and vice president last year. And a lot of work went into this and a lot of thought. So there are a few things that I think everyone should keep in mind when we look at this ordinance. Number one is it's going to greatly help people that live in transit-oriented areas. So around MBTA stations, bus stops, areas where commuters will park their vehicles and leave. This will alleviate a lot of that pressure. Another issue it's going to help with is we're coming to a point in the city where there are a lot of illegal apartments and a lot of people that do not have vehicles registered to the city of Revere that are parking on our streets, that are taking up room. So as my colleagues mentioned, when they come home from work at the end of the day, the people that live there have nowhere to go. So this will help them greatly. You know, change is difficult, and it's something that it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but other communities do this. It works. When we started our commercial vehicle ordinance that Councilor McKenna and myself worked on last year, it was a little bit of a learning curve and people were nervous, and now it's working. So I think that if we give it a chance and work out the kinks, it'll be the best for the city. And I encourage people to ask questions. So if they are watching this and they're concerned and have issues but can't be here, email your city councilors, email the people that work for the police department, 311, DPW. We're here to support you and answer your questions because we don't want this to be a difficult learning curve. We're here to make it easy. So thank you all for your help and input, and I look forward to seeing this go through to the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Eric Lampadecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. Thank you to everybody in attendance and to Councilors Janino and McKenna for trying to take this issue on. After reading this proposal, I have several questions and issues with this, and I'd like to get some clarification if possible. First and foremost, I know that there are large pockets of the city that have these challenges. However, there's also large pockets in the city that do not have these challenges. Are these folks now going to be forced to succumb to these regulations even though they don't really need it?
Yes, this would be citywide, all streets, and just overnight.
Excuse me, I want Jimmy Guido listening to this too.
I'm sure he is. Thank you.
Well, he won't be interrupted.
He'll be fine. Yes, this is a citywide proposal.
Okay. My first concern is really the resident experience. So I have a lot of family that live in Somerville and Everett and other nearby cities. And when you go to visit them, especially when there's snow on the ground, it's a bit of a nightmare. One lives on the 3rd floor, so running up and down to get that visitor pass is really a pain point for the residents and their guests. How can we make that easier for our residents and their guests? Is there any way we can?
No, you would have to display that placard, so it would have to get to you at some point. You may have to go up those 3 flights of stairs to get it, yes.
To that point, there's been some cases where I've driven off with the plaque by accident. And after reading this proposal, we're only allowing 1 visitor permit per dwelling. Is that correct?
Per household.
Per
If
household.
it's a 3-family, each household would be able to apply for one, yes.
Okay. So when I drove off with that placard, my relative couldn't have any other guests come and stay. Is that also going to be held true in Revere?
Yes, if the placard is invisible, you will be given a citation.
Okay. Do we know how much that citation is going to be?
That I can't answer. Maybe the parking control, the cost of a violation in the resident parking, what the cost of that is? $20.
Okay. I know that there are some residents, especially in Ward 4, that are having issues with a lack of enforcement at this time. What are the city's plans to beef up enforcement when this ordinance does go live?
Maybe that question can be answered by the parking director, Jim Rose.
I'd be happy to answer it.
Okay.
We're actually working right now with Jim Rose, Revere Parking Director. We're actually, we have 5 parking enforcement agents on the street right now. We have 1 overnight, 3 during the day, and 1 that works the second shift. We're actually all over the city, even in Ward 4. 311, we're answering them constantly. Every complaint we get from 311 is checked out. So if people are having an issue, 311, we answer everyone. It may be a day later. A lot of times we go up, somebody will make a call. When we get there, the vehicle's not there. That happens all the time. Chief Guido is also working with this 311, and you know, we're getting it done. Yeah, and you know, it's a lot of work. You know, cover the city. We're not going to get them all on any one given night, but we're targeting all neighborhoods, and that hasn't been done in the past.
Right, and to your point, 1 officer for the entire city for overnight parking is not going to do it.
It's not going to do it. But once this, it's not. But once the permit parking overnight 12 to 6 goes into effect, we may have 2 officers out there. But they're pretty good at what they do. You'll be surprised at how they do it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I mean, to answer your question, will there be an officer on every street every night? You know, no, but certainly they'll enforce it as much as they can.
Okay.
And respond to complaints.
Sure. I also have concerns that this proposal is actually going to encourage more people that use their driveway now to begin parking in the street instead. This would allow them to accommodate such guests, and I think this is actually going to further reduce the available parking that we see on the streets currently. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly, if you have a driveway and you have a permit, you could put your car in the street and allow your guests to go into your driveway. Yes, that's true. But, you know, those cars are going to be there anyways, you know, one way or another, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
But I think the proposed new regulations would eliminate a lot of the people who are parking here now who won't be allowed to park here anymore.
Right. So it would free up a lot of spaces because there's a lot of parking on a lot of
Cars
streets.
that aren't registered here, don't pay excise tax, have moved in there from all the surrounding
Sure.
cities.
To your point, Chief Bright, what information has the city collected in terms of that data? Have we gone around and collected information as to how many estimated cars per night are not from Revere?
I don't have that answer for you right now.
Okay.
I can tell you one thing, most of the calls I get, we check them out, they're coming back into town. We have guys going up every day, they're saying the car's been there 3 or 4 days. We run the cars, they're coming back every place but Revere. And this will eliminate the people coming in, dropping their cars in Revere, where it's not gonna affect the residents. It's gonna help the residents out in the long run.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to emphasize what Sergeant Janino said. The whole purpose of this ordinance is to remove the cars in the neighborhoods that don't belong here. So we'll just take Chelsea as resident parking overnight. So technically, 2 people could go put a car in Revere and drive the person home to Chelsea. That's
sure
why
that's
we're
what's
doing this. So everywhere around us has resident parking, we don't. And all the cars are ending up in Revere. So we're doing this to help the residents, not to hurt the residents, not to make revenue. We have almost every ward councilor here asking for this. This is long overdue. There's going to be some bumps along the way, but it's going to solve a lot of problems. It's going to weed out the illegal apartments. It's going to weed out the rooming houses, because obviously if parking control gets a request for a single-family house for 12 resident parking stickers, that's a red flag. He's going to notify the police and the building department, and we're going to look into it.
So a lot of good is going to come out of this.
Sure, so a question
Thank you,
about that. So what linkage will the parking clerk or parking department have to ISD? Are they going to meet monthly? Are they going to discuss these issues that they're finding?
We communicate every day. 311 has been an enormous help as far as parking problems in the community. Every 311 call that goes to parking control, myself and Sergeant Janino get the same call, and either we handle it or they handle it, and then 311 gets back to the people, and I see the response back.
Okay.
So I think we've done some remarkable work, and 311, I think, has also been a great asset to DPW, notifying them of issues that they would otherwise not be aware of.
I'd agree with that. I use 311 frequently, and you guys do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Two thoughts that came across my mind as I listened to this proposal. One of the councilors mentioned overdevelopment along the beach, and I agree with that. Right now, large-scale developments are only required 1.6 parking spaces per unit. Would it be within this body's power to increase that amount or to recommend an increase to that amount?
That would be up to site plan review, not the parking commission, but, you know, that's certainly something that could be considered.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to address that also. As you know, at a couple of site plan meetings, the developers that are proposing a project on Revere Beach, we had them go do a study, and I met with them the other day in my office, and it appears that the Wonderland parking garage, after 8 p.m. at night till 6 in the morning, has plenty of room for overparking. And that's one of the reasons why I believe the city lowered the parking ratio, because that garage was to be used for the overflow. So that seems to be working out. And then the other reason we see cars in the street is because we all know some of the buildings are charging for parking, and the people choose not to park in the paid space, and they end up in the street. But they're not going to be eligible, some of these buildings, for residential stickers. So they're going to end up back in the building. So that's another improvement by having this program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
My last recommendation is something I observed last year when they repaved Tapley Avenue. They moved all of the street parking from one side to the other, and what we found was there are a lot more spaces on one side of the street versus the other. Has the city ever done an assessment on one-sided street parking streets to determine where there's more curb space to allow for more vehicles?
I don't believe we've done a comprehensive study on that, no.
How could we get something like that going?
We have street scan that we did for the streets to see about the condition of the streets. I think that's also a avenue we can pursue through the same software.
Okay.
So that's not a bad idea. Thank you for that.
Thank you guys for your time, and thank you for answering my questions.
Thanks. Sure.
Thank you. So I just want to address a couple of concerns. So first of all, someone said, you know, how many parking clerks do we have monitoring the parking? People can call their ward counselor and say, you know, I have a Florida plate in front of my house, and I call the parking clerks, and they go down and they check it out, and if they're not registered, you know, if they're not registered in Revere, or they're you know, abusing the permit parking, then they get a ticket. And the other thing is, as a body of counselors, I think we put in some sort of an ordinance or some sort of a law that says that any developers that are coming forward, they have to include the parking in their rent. So they can't charge separate parking for these cars.
Yes, that has been cured.
So I think that's yeah, so that's been taken care of. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Pat Malcano, Sagamore Street. Two simple questions. Did you talk about the stickers? Like last time, the stickers had our address on them, and I refused to put the sticker on my car for that reason.
Yes, the street that you live on will be on that sticker so that the parking
And
control would know.
I'll refuse again to put it because somebody at Macy's shouldn't know that I live on Sagamore Street. Do you understand that with regard to safety? Can we work on something like some kind of code? Do you understand that, Chief Wright? Like what, why should?
Well, we understand what you're saying, yes.
Can't you use,
It's a street name, it's not an address.
yeah, well, I don't think somebody in Peabody should know that I live on Sagamore Street.
Okay, we'll certainly take that into
I
consideration.
think that's a very simple resolution that you can do some kind of other code. And I know that a lot of other people feel the same way.
Okay,
I will not put that on my car, and I will encourage others not to also.
okay.
The second question is, when people go to the city clerk to get their sticker, they have to show proof of residency and your registration. Are they in any way linked up to the DMV to prove that they're current on their insurance and registration? Because that would weed out a lot of people
Yes,
that are
the
not.
parking control, Jim Rose may be, but that is in the ordinance that you're not able
No,
to get
Ashley
a.
would know.
that- Jim Rose, yes. That is in the ordinance, Pat, that everybody has to be, no parking tickets, or your excise tax has to be paid before you're issued a permit.
They're linked up immediately, so they know before they even get that sticker.
Maybe Jim could cast some light on that.
Actually, with the new data system with the new data system that we've just put in place, all that information is going to be provided to us. So the answer to your question is yes, they will be.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Don't use your sticker if the address is on it.
Okay.
Jim O'Brien, 87 Atwood Street. I just got a couple questions. Every Sunday, we have our family over. Probably have 6 to 8 cars that come. I've got 2 cars registered in Revere, so you're saying I'm gonna put my 2 cars in the street, I can fit 2 cars in the driveway, but that's all I can have for company, basically?
Chris, is it Sundays and holidays, or is it just
Yeah, but
holidays?
on your street, it's gonna be midnight till
Right.
5 a.m.
You're only midnight
Okay,
to
so,
6 a.m.
all right, I'm sorry.
But I was gonna recommend
So
also-
weekends are excluded?
Well, based on what I'm hearing, right now, weekends aren't excluded.
Right.
But from the phone calls I got last week and in the last couple weeks, we should probably think about just Monday to Friday with the holidays excluded on it. And I don't see it written down here, though.
Mr. Chairman,
So that would be for the commuter areas, or just for, in your area, you would only be affected from midnight to 6 a.m.?
I have one other question. I know in this city, there's a lot of building going on, and a lot of the homes haven't had to have parking because they're on the commuter rail or they're on the bus lines and they're considered green. Are these people that are in these green buildings gonna be eventually able to get a parking permit because they have a car? Because originally the buildings were built that they wouldn't have cars.
That's correct. Frank, I'm sure, will be able to shed some light on that.
Yeah, those buildings that either received variances for parking or have as-of-right parking will not be eligible for a parking sticker.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Jim Rose, Parking Director. I'd like to thank everybody who put a lot of time, Frank Stringy, the councilors, not going to mention everybody by name, but they put a lot of time and effort into making this work, and I spent a lot of time reading it. One of the things I can't say enough about this, it's over-needed. The 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, the city of Revere, just like a couple of councilors have said, when people come in to pay tickets that they receive, they're from Somerville, Cambridge, Stoneham, they're all over the place. They're parking on our city streets, okay? The residents, this is actually gonna help the city of Revere residents tremendously. It's gonna actually help them find parking in the end, because we're gonna weed them out. They're not gonna be able to park here any longer. Just as somebody said, one of the houses, like when I first took the position, I live in Ward 6. When I heard that they wanted to do resident parking, I was totally against it. But now I'm seeing even in Ward 6, we're affected hugely by these apartment houses with 8, 9 vehicles. They're not families. They're all renting rooms. We have to get them off the streets. The only way we're going to do it is the residential permit parking program from midnight to 6 a.m. I'd like to see that rolled out ASAP, as quickly as possible. We can tweak all the rest of this at another time and make the program better and see what we're actually dealing with. Once we remove these vehicles off the street, we'll know better what we're dealing with, and then we can implement anything. But we have a program in place. So I strongly recommend it. I think it's a great idea, long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, very good, thank you. We're glad we got this input. Would the commission like to move this to a public hearing?
I'd like to ask some questions.
Oh, sure, oh, yes, certainly, ma'am.
So I...
Just your name and address, ma'am,
Oh,
for the records.
Mary Gandolfo, Revere, Mass.
Thank you.
I did have one question after
Sure.
looking over tonight's version, which is slightly different than the one I picked up at the clerk's office the other day, but it's nothing too major on it. I did want to say that I feel that someone's street name shouldn't be on their sticker. Particularly concern is for women. Anywhere you go, when you get out of your car, anyone can see what city you live in and what street you live on. And whether it be, you know, someone who's having a problem with someone or just a woman's safety, anywhere you go, someone can, as you get out of your car or into your car, take a look at where you live. And for women nowadays especially, there is a main concern with that. There is a concern with that. Maybe they can come up with some kind of code or something. I don't know, maybe, you know, for your street, if you lived on Malden, an M with a number or something, not the number of your house, but something that wouldn't make it so easy for, I do fear for women being out there with their information on their car. I don't think it's right. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Chief Guido.
I have a few questions to Parking Officer, Control Officer Rose. Jimmy, first of all, I want to make it known with a few adjustments. I'll be voting for this if we can make some amendments. But I want to know, how are we planning to start the program? Are we going to, because I know this went on in Chelsea and it started out as a disaster. And they ended up mailing everyone a sticker, probably off of the excise tax database. Because I don't see how you expect every resident to come to the parking control office unless we roll it out by ward. We need a plan. So I don't know, maybe we have one.
We actually, with the new data company that we're dealing with, they actually said they could roll this out by the excise tax, the same formula that they're using, and we can mail out the first passes. That would be just for the initial
Overnight.
pass. The overnight, yeah.
Right, okay.
And what?
So people wouldn't have to all show up and...
No, they would
At
not
the
have to show up at
beginning.
the office.
Okay.
Right. And it's my understanding, as we had talked in the past, that the initial permit is going to be mailed out at no cost to the residents.
I also think once we roll out the program, if we find problems with the adjacent streets, not enough parking availability, we could always come back to the commission and expand the area for the places where there's a problem. But I think in the beginning, we should just start out with the adjacent street. My next question is, do we really need to put the street name on the stickers? Or can we just have a generic sticker, because both the police and parking control have the ability to run someone's plate, and we would get the address and we would know if they're adjacent or not? Because I don't think that's going to be as big a problem as we think after the program gets rolling. Maybe in the very beginning, be a little extra work, but once someone gets a ticket, they're going to stop doing it.
Right, so basically, what you're saying is for the safety reasons to not put the street on, is that what you're?
Well, I think it'll be a lot easier if you just had one whole pile of stickers and everyone had the same sticker. Well, we're gonna need two colors, commuter parking, the 24-hour parking, and then everyone else, probably two color stickers.
So-
But I don't think we should be putting the street, first of all, the cost is probably prohibitive to print out.
That's written in, isn't it? The addresses, or the street is written in.
The address is written in, yes.
Written in,
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just a suggestion. My next suggestion is the first batch of stickers should probably be for 18 months. And that the rollover should be in July, not in January. That's a pretty hectic time to try to start. I'm going by experience, what happened in other communities.
Other communities.
So those are suggestions, September to September or July to July.
We can actually all sit down and we can discuss this for the, at a future date. But,
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's, right now, we're still trying to get out the 2019 permits. So, and this is shared by a lot of cities and towns. Everett's going through the same problem.
Right.
So it's
So I
something
think
that
the
maybe
first-
July might be a good idea. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then myself, and I think Frank agrees with me, maybe on the 24-hour parking areas, we should try in the beginning excluding weekends, Saturday and Sunday. And if we find it's a problem, we can always just go back to the holidays, but start out, because that is when people have company.
I
So
actually-
I wanted to hear your opinion on that.
No, I actually we were just sitting down, talking, Sundays, we don't actually do traffic enforcement, the parking department, but I think Saturdays and Sundays, I would have no problem with,
Not for the overnight, just for the 24-hour.
in the holidays, just for the 24 hours.
And what about if we made the 24 hours from 12 midnight to 12 noon? Would that be, I want to get the council's opinion too. And that, I sort of agree with this gentleman that.
Oh, yeah, it's
from
causing them a big
that
problem.
we
now.
don't, I said that from the beginning, the one who asked for the 2-hour window for visitors, that how are you going to, no one could have a visitor if it's 24-hour parking.
No, you're absolutely right, and that gentleman was
So
absolutely right.
maybe we could
what he
start
said.
out 12 midnight to 12 noon, and if we find it's a problem, it might only be a few streets, we'll make them the whole 24 hours. But the streets that aren't a problem, we should leave
Some
the
have to be
people
exempt.
alone
Right,
and help them.
yeah, no, I agree.
I want to do this, but I don't want to hurt residents.
Right. That's why, Chief, I wanted to roll it out, starting from 12 a.m. to 6, and then see, from there, where we go with the program.
Well, I agree with you, but also many of these streets on the 24-hour parking list are already been voted meeting after meeting, so
That's true, yeah.
we could probably, before we vote the final one, just look at what we've already voted
And
and
adjust
what's
the
new,
times,
and maybe just
and
make
adjust
it
the
till
times.
12 noon.
Okay.
Okay.
And one more question. From a traffic control perspective, we're trying to get people that don't belong in the city out of here. I mean, if you go to a house and there's a resident sticker and you find that the person is maybe 2 streets away, we won't be aggressively ticketing that. I don't see why we have to get into that. If you're a couple of streets away, maybe not the adjacent one, but that doesn't seem too egregious. You're a Revere resident and you're in the area. I mean, I don't.
We're not out really to cause people problems with parking. We're trying to actually help people. When I first came here into the position, we were taking a lot of vehicles. Now the number of tickets that we're issuing down tremendously, and it's down tremendously because people understand that we do have a traffic department. We are taking the vehicles for being illegally parked, and what we've been doing is actually working. And when we do the rest of this parking permit program, I think we're going to clean the city up how a lot of us would like to have it.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions, Chief?
Just one more thing, and I'm sure this will be between myself, Sergeant Janino, and you. I think we're going to have to maybe expand the signage, because to enforce it, people have to be aware of it, so that won't affect the ordinance, but we'll have to do our due diligence so people are aware of the resident parking.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
And then, after everyone speaks, I'd like to make some amendments,
Okay.
what we've talked about in form of a motion.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Chief Bright, Frank, do you have any comment? Okay, fine.
As far as the signage, I was driving around looking around the street super signs, a lot of no parking signs we have now.
Yes.
Have to be updated.
Okay.
I was over in Everett the other day, and they have it all on one sign. No parking, no emergency.
Right.
Permit parking, Monday to Friday. Street sweeping, third Thursday from here. It's all on one side, nice and neat. So, and posted up pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Joanne McKenna, Ward 1 Councilor. I agree and disagree with Chief Guido. I do think that it would be great to do Saturdays and Sundays with no 24-hour parking. But we do have people that work second shift, and they park right near the T station. They won't pay the $5, and they get on the T. So to take that away from the transit areas, I think it's a big mistake, because we do have people that work second shift, third shift, overnight shifts, and you're just going to allow these people to park in front of residents, and it's still going to cause havoc. So I agree with you with the free, weekends free, definitely. But with the to eliminate the 24-hour parking in front of where T stations are, it's not a good idea.
Well, I believe if we do two-color stickers, my proposal would be for the majority of the city that has the red sticker, and the commuter streets are gonna have a green sticker that wouldn't apply to that.
Okay.
But I think the rest of the city, like this gentleman or someone who lives in Ward 6, we don't need it on Saturday and Sunday.
No, we don't need it on Saturday, Sunday, but I
That's
think to
my
take away 24-hour parking in Beachmont or Shirley Ave is a mistake, because like I said, you have people that work second shift, third shift, overnight shift.
I'm in agreement, Council,
Oh,
but so
okay.
we're gonna have to designate the commuter streets and have one color sticker, and all the rest of the city will be another color sticker. And if you're in the commuter area, you can't, it's 7 days a week, except holidays, I don't think.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak? Chief Guido, would you like to make some amendments to this?
I would start my first, I guess, you want to go, Frank? My first suggestion would be we go to a two-color sticker program if the parking clerk's in agreement, and the majority of the city will have one color sticker, and all of the areas that we have designated through the years in this traffic commission as commuter streets will have a different color sticker, and then my amendments will not apply to those commuter streets. So my
Mr. Rose, if you have any objection to what is mentioned up here, let us know.
Right, we want to
So-
make this work.
Right, so a two-sticker,
Two colors.
a two-color program, would that be feasible? People that are in the, would that be feasible? Two stickers, different colors. The commuter people would have one color in those areas. The rest of us, or the rest of the city would have a different color.
Different color. That's something I'd like to look into that a little more,
Okay.
not just give you an answer on that tonight, because, you know, I had to talk to the new people that were doing City Hall systems to help us out and figure out what we can do.
Okay.
I was just talking to one of my colleagues back there, and as far as the street, putting the street addresses on it, that's something we might be able to get around not doing. I'm going to talk to them tomorrow about it, because we know we have the permit number. The permit number is actually matched up with the residents, so that may.
Database.
Yeah, a database.
That's a good idea,
Yeah.
too. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that can give us what we need to satisfy with what you're asking
So
for.
if you ran the parking sticker number, it'll tell you in the
Yeah,
computer.
yeah, what street you're on.
Okay.
Yep.
So that will be my next amendment, that we delete the name of the street on the
Okay.
stickers. My third amendment would be in the 24-hour areas that are non-commuter, that the hours be 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. and exclude Saturday, Sunday, and holidays.
Okay, I agree with the Saturday, Sundays, and holidays, but these commuter areas,
No, not in the non-commuter areas.
I don't believe we
Point of
have,
information.
I don't believe we have any 24-hour areas that are non-commuter.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. here.
Point of
Okay.
information, which I just heard from the parking clerk, which he had a great idea. Instead of having two colors, have a barcode on the sticker. And the barcode will tell you what street, what the address is. So instead of having two color stickers, which will probably save money on, you have a barcode, and all he has to do is read the barcode, and it will tell him, this barcode, this car comes from 830 Winthrop Avenue.
But Joanne, if I was the parking enforcement person driving around, and the street's supposed to be all orange stickers, and I saw the green one, I'd see the violet. I'm not gonna go check every car.
So what happens to the person that has to have two stickers on their car?
Why would they need two stickers?
Well, if they're parking overnight to go into work. I don't-
I'm not understanding.
I don't know. I would tell them.
Okay.
If you live in a commuter street, the sticker's for 24 hours. And
Okay.
if you live everywhere else, it's 12 to 6 a.m.
Right. This would prevent other people, from people, other areas of the city coming to the commuter
Well,
areas.
that's what we want to.
Right.
Definitely.
So only an orange sticker could be on a commuter street.
I do think there should be a barcode on, if we're going to eliminate street names on plackets and stickers, then there should be at least a barcode on the plackets.
Well, the sticker number's the same thing.
Okay. All right.
I think we should leave that up to the parking clerk and the company that's done it in many municipalities.
Go ahead.
Tell you, as far as the cars that don't belong on the street, ask Mr. Rose and myself, we get phone calls. If the cars don't belong there, they're calling us up right away. They say the car's been there for 3 days, so we're not gonna be out there targeting street
Right.
by street, saying, listen, we're gonna go hit a street today for resident permit packet, unless we get calls on it.
Right.
Or in the, the area.
So these are.
Thank you.
All right, how are we gonna determine which is a commuter street?
They're in here.
Because my street's
They're
not a
listed in
My
here.
street is 7 to 12, so evidently it's not a commuter street.
It is a commuter street. We haven't gone through the city and put all these streets.
Because like I said, it's been that way, I don't know, at least 25 years.
Right.
The 7 to 12, and it's basically stopped all the commuter parking for the trains.
Okay.
The problem we have now is just that we have rooming houses and stuff like that there. It's jamming up the street. And like I said, then, and in the wintertime, people don't want to shovel, they save their spots. So it's not been a problem in that area, in that immediate area, Garfield, Dana Street, Dick Street. We haven't had a problem with commuter parking since the 7 to 12 has been there. And it's been there forever.
Right.
Like I say, the last 25 years, I shouldn't say forever. So I would like to keep it that way if possible.
Okay,
All right,
yes,
thank
I have that. Yes, Ralph.
Chief Guido, just as a suggestion that we may want to check in, the parking clerk can check too, we may want to look at not doing colors because of the ADA, and even though it's the officers checking because of color blindness. It may discriminate against the officers doing that are colorblind and not going to be able to decipher the colors. So you may want to do like a zone 1 or a zone 2. Something like that. This is what we talked about when we initially had the meetings, when we were going to try and do different locations in the city. Instead of doing colors, try and do something else, a zone 1 or a zone commuter or something like that instead of doing colors. Just a point of information.
If, as you drive by, if it's evident what zone you're in, I suppose, we're trying to stop the officers from having to get out and look in every single car. I think that's what the gist of this is, but if we feel as though colors would be a problem and zone 1 and zone 2, we could put on there.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should have two colors, but that's my personal opinion. And the colors should change every year when we renew the stickers, so the person isn't using the same sticker for 10 years.
White and black, that sounds good.
If
Councilor
I may-
Novoselsky?
If I may, Mr. Chairman and members, why can't we just leave the commuter parking alone? It's already established. You know, everybody knows.
So as
that
far
they
as the times go?
Yeah. You know, leave it alone, you know, don't change it. just work on the overnight parking. You know, this way it takes care of the people that have lived here for 45 years, 50 years. Myself, is, you know, I have to have a sticker on my car, you know, but mine is from 7 a.m. to 12 noon. Some of the areas are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. based on what street and how close they are to the train stations.
Okay.
And I say just leave the commuter parking alone, let it be, leave the times on it that they are, and we just add on the nighttime overnight parking sticker, as you may want to call it. Some of us may have to get 2 stickers, you know, one for the commuter area and one for the overnight.
Well, I think if you have the commuter sticker, that would apply to 24 hours and it would apply to overnight.
If that's the rule you want to make, fine, you know, that's legitimate. You know, but if they have a commuter sticker, then they're good for overnight then. That's basically what you're talking about, but leave the morning times alone.
Okay.
You know, I would say that in my area, because everybody is used to it.
And, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Councilor Novoselsky, and all of those streets have been posted individually. So that's probably a good solution. It makes everyone happy. We get the overnight parking, and then we'll just decide if we're gonna have 2 different color stickers. But if you want parking enforcement to do their due diligence, the simplest thing is to be able to drive along the street and see the car that doesn't belong.
Right.
And Mr. Chairman, just so you know, I see the parking enforcement people out every day, and they walk the street. You know, they'll do a whole street, walk it, and check every sticker, because a lot of them are worn out, and a lot of people have stickers from last year, even though they were colored, you know, they were different colors, but they were worn out, so you really kind of, and they actually check and see what year, because that sticks out, is on it. So, you know, they get out anyway.
Okay.
You know, they don't want to stay in those cars anyways. They don't like those cars because they're electric cars and they can't get heat anyway, or air conditioning.
Councilor Novoselsky, I have another question. Is the streets presently weekends too? Or
No.
only some streets?
No, none of them. are
None of them?
weekends. No.
What about in Joanne's area?
I don't know about Joanne's area.
Are your commuter streets Saturdays and Sundays? They all
7
say
days a
Monday
week.
through Friday.
Not 7 days.
6 days a week. It's on Saturdays.
Councilor McKenna, would you be opposed to dropping Saturdays?
I wouldn't be opposed. I know a lot of people have
That's not my
parties.
question. My question is presently, the enforcement we're doing,
It's Saturdays.
it
too.
is Saturday? 'Cause
Yes.
that's,
And we have a lot of people you have no idea that park
okay.
on Saturdays and go to the T-station.
So I would agree with Councilor Novoselsky that we just have the commuter areas stay exactly the way they are, what we voted in the past.
Okay.
There's signs up on every one of those streets. And then we implement the overnight parking. And with a couple of amendments, I'll leave it up to the parking clerk if we should do the first sticker 18 months and when the renewal should be. He can find out from other cities what they've gone through. I don't think we need to determine how he rolls it out. We just want to vote to do it.
Okay, that sounds good. It looks like we're here. So Mr. Rose will look into the feasibility of getting 2 stickers, 2 different color stickers, and we can move this to an official public hearing the last Thursday in April. By then, we'll have the information from Mr. Rose about the 2 different color stickers. We'll leave the commuter areas as is, as posted. We won't touch them. That'll make everyone happy, and we will also look into not putting the name of the street, which Mr. Rose feels as though is feasible, the name of the street not on the sticker.
And, Mr. Chairman,
think we're
one last concern. I know
Okay.
Frank Stringy did a lot of work on the residents that will be eligible not to have any stickers. But I really believe a couple of these locations, we might have to think twice about this, because it's just obvious to both myself and Sergeant Janino, the Lanton Road, Macoba, Ward Street area. Obviously, there's not enough parking there because there's cars parked all the way down Ward Street every night. And if we go with this, we're gonna have a lot of people with nowhere to park.
Okay, so on those, on that
So I
particular
just want
list.
to make sure that just because someone doesn't own a home and they're renting and they're a resident of Revere, they might be renting in the same place for 15 years, that they're not displaced.
Well, as long as their car's registered in Revere.
They're not allowed to get a sticker at all.
The first list.
So I
the
think we
ones-
should leave that up to parking clerk if there should be some exceptions.
The first list, the ones that are only eligible for one per household, you want to move
No,
that to
there's-
registered cars?
No, I'm talking about they're eligible for no stickers.
Well, that's because their facilities that they live in are supposed to have adequate parking.
Well, we know just from experience that the Ward Street area, all those buildings down there, there's not enough parking, and people live there, and where are they gonna go? So I think then we should leave it up to the parking clerk. There is parking on Ward Street, and if they can prove they live in that area, they should maybe be eligible for a parking sticker. It shouldn't just be absolutely not. And there's a couple other streets that could apply to, so I just don't
I
want to.
represent that area, Chief. There's no problem right now. There's absolutely no problem.
They
There's
park
no-
in the street council.
Well, there's ample room for them to park within.
That's my point.
There is ample room for them to do that. Once we start weeding it out, if you try to make the perfect ordinance, this is just from observation, from being in politics for so many years, we will never get anything off the board. We're saying from the council and from people who drafted this is just something to start with. We can modify it as we go along. But the more we come up with problems as to what we have to try to fix before we start something, we're never going to get off the board.
I think we're there, Counselor, but.
I'm not sure we're there because, I mean, we can throw criticism at it and look for problems as we go along. But let's get started with something.
But I'm agreeing with you. You're saying the people are parking there now. When we
Well-
vote this, they're not going to be allowed to park there because they can't get a sticker.
Can I say something?
That's my point.
A lot of them made agreements with BJ's to do some activity there. Macoba Street finally came up with a plan to take care of those homes that are there.
Right.
And so everybody finds a reason to take care of it once they're put in places that they need to do something about it. They will do something about it.
So, point of information, I surveyed each one of these properties, and in surveying using our GIS system, determined they all had adequate parking, off-street parking. They're parking on the street because they want to on their own. They have adequate parking.
It's easier for them.
The idea of this is to take those cars off the street and force them into their parking lots.
Exactly. Exactly. And it frees up the whole neighborhood. And again, the chief can come down with his apparatus, God forbid, if there's a need for an emergency, and everybody is living in a safer community. Very simple. But we can sit here for years and debate what let's get going with this, get it on the books, modify it as individual people need for their particular areas, and then we'll have a successful program maybe in 2-3 years. But let's get off the ground with this, because the people really want it. And you're saying to yourself after reviewing these processes, you know, this could work. This could really become something good for our community. So give it a shot. Give it a chance to work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry for indulging.
No, that's okay.
You're a good man.
Thank you. Councilor Powers?
I just have one question. There is a development that will be built between Beachland Avenue and Calumet Street on the westerly side. Can I be assured that there will be no permits issued for that building, which I believe is comprised of 18 units, 9 ones and 9 twos? Can I be assured to eliminate the possibility of anyone parking with any kind of a sticker on Beachland or Calumet Streets, which are already heavily inundated with parking right now? Can I be assured of that?
Well, that development, I'm sure, has ample parking.
That development received a variance. Once they come in for occupancy, it's occupied, they will not be eligible for a sticker. That address will go into Section G, which is those properties that have adequate parking or received a variance for parking.
I believe they
They
agreed
would
to
not
that.
be eligible.
I believe they agreed to that, but I just want to make sure that it's enforced.
Yeah.
Thank
This-
you.
This gets updated every time a new development comes online, or a new multifamily building comes online, and it gets inserted into G, Section G.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, thanks. Do we have a motion to move this to a public hearing on the last Thursday of April?
I'll make a motion.
Second, okay. And within that time, Mr. Rose will look into the two-colored sticker, hopefully, prospect, and we'll leave the commuter areas. If everyone's happy with what's happening in their commuter areas now, we'll leave them as they are. We won't touch those. The times and stuff will stay unique to each area. And we won't put the name of the street on the sticker. And I think that, hopefully, that makes everyone happy.
What days are we gonna use, re-advertise it out? Is it gonna be 7 days a week or just Monday to Friday?
Well, I think the overnight will be 7 days a week, and the commuter will stay the way it is, however it appears in the ordinance now, or however it appears in the sign.
So basically, Mr. Chairman, we only need to advertise public hearing for the 12 midnight to 6 a.m. All the other parking's already in place
That's right.
when we do the notice.
Okay? Sure.
So I have streets, now what's happening is I've put in 25 streets for permit parking, but now they're moving. Like, remember we talked about, they're moving down the street where there's no permit parking. So as I go forward, do I come in front of the Traffic Commission and
Yes.
get these streets all permit parking?
Yes, we'll continue on as we have in the past and take each street or each area individually, and we'll try to tailor-make it to what the unique area is.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's the last Thursday in April. Well, we usually have it at 4.
Mr. Chairman, let's compromise and we'll have it at 5.
How's 5 sound? Will you be able to make it, Pat? Okay.
I'll take off the next one.
Okay. Yes, we're going to get a date right now. April 25th, Thursday, April 25th at 5 o'clock, is that good? Okay, and then hopefully, Counselor, right after that meeting, we'll put it into action. Okay. Okay, one other order of business, Ralph DeChico has 3 handicap signs that he'd like to move to a public hearing on the 25th also.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.